How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well. So today we've got some tips on how to be a very good SMG player in Warzone. So the other day I released an AR video similar to this. So if you've seen that, it's going to be very similar style where we just talk about some of the key points straight away off the bat. Then we go into some of the roles of being an SMG player. And then lastly, I'll give you some more tips on how to do better at this role. So we're going to sort of link it towards CDL players a little bit as well, so base it off that. Obviously, not every team's going to have like team players on it, but if you can just do what you can, then it's going to be a very good idea and sort of benefit your team and get you more wins and kills in the long run. So we'll get straight into the video now, guys, and I hope you enjoy. So being an SMG player, you're obviously going to be the most aggressive player on the team, so you need to be comfortable with getting straight in their enemy's face and need to be sort of good with intense moments and gunfights, and obviously you need to be comfortable using an SMG. So in this game it's all about the MP40, I'm sure you all know this by now. You'll see in the gameplay today in the background where we're going to be using the MP40 and you can just see how good the gun is really. But you've got sort of the Thompson as well, which if you wanted to change it up. And then you want to be sort of playing similar to players that sort of like Scump, Envoy or aBeZy. So if you've seen any of those guys play, you'll understand what I'm saying and some of the tips. But if you haven't, I highly recommend going to watch them play to give you some ideas on how to play as an SMG player. So up first, let's get into some of the key points, which I believe to be movement, gun skill, and then rotations. So first talk about movement. Now this is obviously going to be important because you're going to be rushing around the map in the enemy's faces and you need to just be comfortable with your sort of slide cancels and that sort of thing. So this is a key point, but we'll get into that a little bit later on as well. And then secondly, we want to talk about gun skill, or gunny as a lot of the players call it these days. So this just means to be comfortable up close with a gun like an SMG, well obviously an SMG for this role, and you need to have good control of it and good accuracy. This obviously comes down to what gun you're using as well, so it's a good idea to use the meta if you want to play nice and aggressive, such as the MP40 as we already mentioned. And then the last key point I wanted to just mention was rotations. Now this just means how you cross around the map and which routes you take. So in something like hardpoint, this is going to be key, so you need to start figuring out where to rotate to before the next hardpoint comes in and that sort of thing, and also the timing of this as well. And you can use the map to your advantage in this point. So basically you want to sort of see where the enemies are spawning, basically by looking at where you don't have any teammates on the map, so they're probably going to be spawning in that area. And you can use a sort of off route to sort of get to them without making it too obvious which sort of angle you're crossing from. So just bear in mind those three things: movement, gun skill and rotations. If you can learn those, you're going to be a very good SMG player. So up next, we're going to talk about the roles of SMG players. Now, I would say you kind of break down an SMG player into two roles. It's quite common knowledge, where one is sort of a slayer, so that's like a Scump type player, where you're just going to be going for the more kills. And then the other type would be more of an objective-based player, who, it's in the name really, you're going to be going for the objectives and capturing and playing a good team player really. But both of them, you know, you're going to need to understand how spawns work, be confident in your gun skill and movement, as we already mentioned. But we'll sort of break it down here. So if for the slayer role, or the sort of player you're going to be getting more kills, then it's your job to dominate the mid-map. So you need to rotate around the objective areas and give your objective-based players backup by taking out enemies who are pushing and flanking. So by doing this, you know, you're going to rack up the kills, get some kill streaks in as well. Good idea to use stuff like spy planes or even like mortars to hold them down. So basically you need to be really confident at killing enemies pretty much for this role. And another role of a sort of slayer would be to learn the flanks and the SMG routes. So you want to try and get yourself into some awkward spots to take out enemies whilst they're pushing. If you can sort of play off angles and stuff like this, it's going to really help you out. So as you can see in the video here, I pushed up to the mids map here, and I'm in a very weird, awkward angle there before I push up. Take out a few enemies, get some kill streaks going as well. So it's a good idea to learn different spots like that. And then another sort of role for the slayer would be to try and support your team by taking out any threats and clearing out the power positions where the other team may be. So this could mean pushing up. If you know there's enemies sort of camping inside of a building where they're locking down one area of your map, then you can try and flank in and sneak around the outside of the map, avoiding gunfights until you get into there and take them out of their power position. So for the objective-based player, obviously you can do bit of both. You don't have to stick to one of these, just bear that in mind. But you're going to be first to the hard points or even the bomb sites in search. You need to give your teammates really good communications about where you see enemies, because obviously you're going to be first into all the objectives. You can tell your teammates where they're pushing from and things like that. Also, it's a good idea to have a good understanding of each objective area. So for example, if you're on a hill in hardpoint, then know which corners are good to sit in, understand which direction the enemies are going to be pushing from, and just watch out for stuff like grenades and things like that. So it's just understanding each area. It just comes with experience, this tip, really, simply because you need to play a lot of it to understand and get a good understanding of how the game mode works. And then, of course, you need to be willing to sort of put your life on the line for the sake of your team getting more points and to secure the win. Because obviously you're in the objective, so you're probably going to get taken out first. But you should have a good AR player watching over you and giving you call-outs if that's possible. Obviously, some maps it's not going to be possible, but there we go. That's sort of the roles laid down. Now, on to the final section of the video, which is going to be giving you some general tips on how to become a good SMG player. So, as we mentioned in the start, you want to be very good with your movement. So if you practice your slide cancels and jump shots, they're the main two in this game, simply because sort of drop shots are another one. But if you lie down with those, you're going to get taken out pretty fast in this game due to the high time to kill. So yeah, you want to be jump shotting around each corner and slide cancelling. It's just going to make you a harder target to hit, and you're going to secure more 1v1 kills and just take them out, really. It lets you move around the map nice and smooth, because obviously if you're going around corners really slow, you're going to be an easier target. And then linking on to the next point would be to always stay moving in your gunfights. So you want to strafe around basically while you're aiming in, rather than just standing still in your gunfights. But this links on to sort of slide cancel, so you could slide and then stand up and then just keep moving with the left stick if you're on controller, and then just sort of keep yourself moving. Once again, just a different technique to making yourself a harder target to hit. And then once you do kill an enemy, you want to keep it moving into like the next room or building or area, simply because if the enemy teammates see that you've killed a guy in that room, they're probably going to push in and try and take you out as well. Now, you can improve your gun skill by shooting bots. Now, a lot of people do this now, but there's still a few that probably sort of underestimate how important this is. Now, you can use this to improve your accuracy and your reaction time and just your general feel for different guns. So if you're not used to the MP40, good idea to chuck all the attachments on it that you use, and then just getting used to the recoil patterns and things like that. You can also use bots to warm up before you play. I know I do this before I hop into a game sometimes. If I'm feeling a little bit rusty, this will get your movement working really good and your accuracy. So as we mentioned once before, the rush routes are important in this game. I do have 2 videos on my channel now on different rush routes, or I've got one going up soon, depends on when I upload this, but just stay tuned for that. Basically, it's a good idea to bear in mind the best rush routes, and you wouldn't just use the same ones all the time, to be honest, a lot of the time anyway, because you're going to get used to this and how the enemies play it and things like that. Different opportunities that can creep up as well whilst you're pushing. So this is important to get behind to get easy access behind enemy lines. And then lastly, I just want to talk about using equipment. Obviously, any role is going to use equipment, but using it correctly. I said there's 3 sort of main ones for this role, I'd say, or 3 main ones that most people use anyway, but stims are going to be huge. I use these all the time to get myself back in the gunfight. This, as you can see in the video there, actually, you can stim up and then reach out if you get into cover. And obviously stun grenades and flashes, they're going to be perfect to push people inside of rooms and just give you that advantage to kill them before they can kill you. And then lastly, smokes can be handy if you're more of a tactical SMG player. These can be handy for search and destroy and other game modes to chuck down, and you can use these to cross the open areas and lanes perfectly and nice and safe. But you can also use them to bait. So if you're going to plant at A, you can chuck a smoke towards B and they might think you're going to go plant it. It's just a really good opportunity for you guys. So guys, that's going to do it for this SMG tips video. Do hope you enjoyed the style of video. If you did, don't forget to either like, comment and subscribe. Really do appreciate all the support on the channel lately. So shout out to you guys, all the new and old subscribers that have been there from the start. Really appreciate you all. So thank you all for watching, guys. I'll see you all in the next one.